Welcome to Dig Deep, the mining podcast. In this podcast, we go deep into mining news, hot topics, and live interviews with mining professionals and leading figures in the mining industry. Introducing your host, Rob Tyson, founder and director of Mining International and Mining International Executive, a leading global mining recruitment and headhunting agency.
Hi mining community, welcome back to another episode of the Dig Deep, the mining podcast. And today's guest is Patrick Elliot, who's the president and CEO of Forte Minerals Corp, a listed Canadian exploration company committed to maximising shareholder value through acquiring, exploring, discovering and developing copper and gold projects in Chile and Peru. With a geology and mineral economics background, Patrick has over 17 years experience in mineral exploration and the resources sector, covering also finance and marketing, working extensively throughout North and South America. He specialises in economic resource project evaluation, financial modelling, CAPEX estimation and mining finance. And he's on the podcast today to talk about Forte Minerals, also talk about Chile and Peru as a mining jurisdiction, leadership styles and insights, and also the copper market and a lot more. Also, just want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Corp, who are leaders in the property risk management within the mining industry and have been since 1992. They offer insurance risk surveys, production risk reviews, asset criticality assessments, and more. They work across 600 sites globally, and they support all areas of mining and minerals. So if you're looking for any property risk and insurance management services, then visit their website at www.horcroft.com. All the details are in the show notes. Patrick, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having us on here. I appreciate that, Rob.
No, thank you as well. I know you're an active listener to this to the podcast, so you know how it goes. I wanted you to obviously just tell us a little bit about your career, about your background. I suppose what got you into the mining industry also. So I hand it over to you just to tell us a little bit about yourself and your career.
Certainly. I'm an economic geologist by trade, and I started, 1998 doing undergrad in geology. And this was during a time that was pretty quiet in our sector. There wasn't many jobs in exploration, and quite frankly, people thought I was crazy to go into economic geology, given that there wasn't a whole lot of career opportunities there. But I had an early start, just being exposed to exploration and mining. The families involved in the financial aspect of oil and gas and mining, and so I took a liking to exploration and started collecting rocks at a very early age, and did a lot of field trips with my father to go look at sites in British Columbia and Washington State, and the Yukon. And so it was an opportunity that I had to study geology, and glad I did. But things really started to pick up in 02, 03, and I moved to Peru and Chile at times to explore porphyry coppers and gold projects. But the focus initially, and it's still to this date, is finding big alteration footprints, looking for porphyry coppers. And it's one of the most prolific copper belts in the world that goes through Peru and into Chile. And we're still 20 years later. We're still exploring in South America.
And before we speak about Forte Minerals, you spent a big part of your career working in Chile and Peru, and I wonder what actually drew you to the region. And is there any sort of standout memories from those early years that shaped how you approach exploration today?
Yeah, I mean, one of my first visits to the region was going underground at El Teniente, and having the opportunity to go to Escondida, and just looking at the magnitude and scale of these, some of the world's biggest copper deposits, and being able to learn about how long these and how significant these opportunities are for a nation and for the industry as a whole. And at that point, we found a couple copper deposits in Chile, 03, 02, 03, and 04, but we soon moved into Peru because it had a late start in exploration, and there was a lot more opportunity there to find grassroots and alteration systems in Peru. But I think it was the magnitude of the size of these occurrences, and how meaningful they are to the whole industry. One of the first field trips I had at like age 12 years old was to go to Highland Valley Tech. It was Tech Cominco at the time, Tech Resources Highland Valley copper mine. And I think it's still one of the biggest ones that I've ever been to. So it's pretty overwhelming. I still got 30 years ago, I still have samples from that field trip, but it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. I wonder if you can just give us a snapshot of Forte Minerals, the history behind the company, and where you are today.
Yeah, so Forte Minerals, we have a team that we all met about 20 years ago. Most of us met in Chile together, and we had some really good successes with Centenario Copper, and that was sold off to a major. And we are still, the same team today. We added a few really key individuals in Peru, and we've all been together at least 15 years and some 20 years. And it's been exploring for copper in Chile and then into Peru. And when we moved into Peru, it was around 2004, and a very important project that my exploration manager, Manuel Montoyo, he discovered Zafranel porphyry for Teck Resources. And so we were involved in that project with a Canadian junior with Teck for several years. And, this thing grew quite immensely in 2 to 3 years. And being a part of that with Manuel and Tom Hendrickson, myself, Stephanie Ashton, it really opened us up to that, we can find more alteration systems like this. The belts are relatively underexplored, and you're not drilling blind targets, deep geophysical anomalies. They are found on surface still. And so we moved on and started a private project generator. And that is what's been fueling the pipeline of projects for Forte that we started a few years ago. So we took Forte public 3 years ago, and it was predicated on this work that we started generatively in 2007, 2008. So at one point we had over 30 properties that we had staked, and it often takes an entire mining cycle to accumulate these and make these acquisitions for next to nothing, and it's a phenomenon that happens through all the downturns, where the major mining companies and the mid-tier producers, when times get tough, they relinquish their exploration properties and often their best talent as well. And we remain very versatile, and we're there to usually stake these and pick these projects up. So a lot of the best properties, copper and gold ones that we picked up, were over 10 years ago. 2013 was a really bad year. 2015, we saw a lot of ground coming free, and we started accumulating more and more projects. And now, we're finally seeing the sector turn, and these groups that dropped their projects 10 years ago, we've been able to advance them through surface geology and geophysics, drill permitting, etc. And there's an appetite now for those mid-tier major copper and gold companies to want to work on these projects. So it's full cycle. Like I said, it's been 20 years with this team in Peru, and we've had a lot of success. We've made several big discoveries. Our team has over 17 discoveries, and seven of them are in Peru. So it's not a place we want to leave. It's a pretty rich and dominant metal belt that's pretty exciting.
As obviously most people aware, mining exploration is high stakes, obviously a long-term process, as you obviously just described. But what's been a pivotal moment for you and in your career that shaped your leadership style at Forte Minerals?
Quite honestly, Rob, I was fortunate enough to work with a lot of really good mentors that had been in the business a long time. So, I tried to soak in as much as I could and learn as much as I could from these industry leaders that, had spent 30, 40 years in the sector. And I try and surround myself with a diversified team that can help us be successful. And we've had a lot of success with this team, and we're fortunate enough to all still be together today. I'm just lucky enough to lead this group now, and they trust me and encourage me and support me. There's a tremendous gap in our sector as far as the demographics, and fortunately there's a lot of economic geologists and financial experts that are still in the business, and we're able to learn from them and have a solid team with them.
The company takes a different approach by leveraging a pipeline of obviously pre-vetted copper and gold projects in Peru. How does this strategy give you, I suppose, an edge in an industry where exploration success is obviously never guaranteed?
Strategy is it's unique in that there's very few junior copper companies doing this in the country that have started 15, 20 years ago, from generative through to drill ready alteration systems that's never been tested before. But I think the key to it is that we're not looking to find deposits that we could put into production ourselves. These large porphyry alteration systems that we've identified, or that we're advancing and subsequently testing, they are for the big mid-tiers and major copper companies. So we don't go after small epithermal gold systems or smaller deposits that we would look to advance and put in production ourselves. All these targets are for large company targets, and we're essentially fueling their pipeline, trying to de-risk and advance these projects through to drill ready status. Some of them we will drill ourselves and eventually partner and sell these assets to the gold producers and the copper producers. And I mentioned this before, but in Peru, because it's such a prolific copper belt, there's often large high sulfidation systems associated with these porphyry copper belts. And so when we're looking for porphyry copper anomalies and these large alteration zones, we often find a gold associated with that. And so that's why we have a balanced portfolio of some gold high sulfidation assets and some porphyry copper as well. And this is a strategy that we've utilized with several different companies with the same team, and we find it works really well. But we stake all of our projects ourselves. We don't buy any of them or option these projects out. And so there's a relatively low acquisition cost where we can add significant value through surface exploration and geophysics, drill permitting, community relations, and subsequently drill testing for the first time. So we're at a point now that we've done all this legwork privately. It's been 10 to 15 years developing these large portfolios of properties, and we've handpicked the best properties that we want to move forward ourselves into Forte, and 3 of them are drill ready. So 20 years flies by, but we're excited for this sector and for what's to come. The economics are strong, and we've always been bullish on copper and gold. So
Peru's a mining powerhouse, but when it comes obviously to permitting, there's challenges and obviously political uncertainty. How has Forte navigated through these obviously complexities? And what's the biggest misconception about mining and working in Peru?
Yeah, it's a question that I'm often asked, and things have changed a lot in 15, 20 years. But I think the biggest misconception is that you know there might be some instability, and the communities can be an issue in some of the regions and whatnot. And I think that goes for anywhere on the globe. I mean, it's not a regional or a country issue in Peru. And I think that probably the biggest factor is that the largest copper producers in the world have been there for several decades. If they felt that it was unstable and they couldn't get these projects permitted and they couldn't move forward and de-risk them socially, politically, environmentally, they would have left a long time ago. So you have that support, you have that presence from all the biggest gold and copper companies, and that's what also gives us the confidence that they're still there. They're still developing these assets. They're pouring billions and billions into construction and development into new porphyry coppers, and certainly the infrastructure of these new ports that have been developed, with help of the Chinese and the Peruvian government and foreign investment. It's substantial, and I think it gives the foreign investors a lot of satisfaction and support that Peru is a dominant powerhouse in silver, copper, and gold, but truly it's a long-term focus and vision.
Obviously, copper's making headlines with a supply crunch concerns. Yet new discoveries obviously are pretty rare. In your view, are junior miners and explorers like Forte positioned to help fill this gap, or will we see the majors taking, I suppose, more aggressive action?
Yeah, it's a collaboration. As we discussed, a lot of the majors relinquished their exploration assets in the downturn, and it's we see it across the sector. And so now we're at a point where they lack those exploration opportunities. So they're coming back. You're seeing a lot of strategic mining investment, cash inflows into these companies that have good exploration targets, good exploration properties. If you look at the tenement holdings throughout these metal belts in the country, the belts are virtually all staked up. So there's no free ground available in these regions, and so if you spent the time over the last decade or two accumulating these assets, then you're in a good position to be able to assist and help the majors move these forward. But it's a collaboration, certainly, and we were at the forefront of something that's quite exciting. I mean, we're seeing copper over $5 right now. I mean, we knew it was going to get there. It's just a matter of when, and it looks like the future is friendly for supply demand economics on copper. So it's why we've always been focused on it. But we accumulate these portfolios when copper's at $2, and we attract partners where when it's up at these levels, and we pour money into testing them, and we're at that point now.
Your recent acquisition of Alto Ruri has obviously turned heads, especially with its historic high-grade gold values. What makes this project stand out, and I suppose what's next on the roadmap?
Yeah, certainly it's the historic grades that were encountered in the first ever drill hole into this in 1997. And, even during those times in 1997, it was a fairly well-known discovery, first pass drilling campaign that Buenaventura had. But I guess fortunately for us, there was some issues that there wasn't access into the community, and this project changed hands between a couple major companies over a 15-year horizon, and never got advanced. It kind of sat there without the issues being resolved. And we were fortunate enough to be able to stake it in 2013, and we've been able to solve those issues. So we staked it privately, and it was again the same story where it became available. It was relinquished by a major company, and we staked it the next day. And initially we had staked it in competition with another major company, so there wasn't a whole lot of progress for about 10 years there. And just recently we've made the acquisition into Forte. We spun it out of our private entity, and we've been working with the communities and moving that project forward. So I guess to recap on Alto Ruri, this is a project that should have gotten advanced in exploration and perhaps developed 20 years ago, but it didn't. And I think it was fortunate for us. We have a fallback. This is our foundation. There's a well mineralized high sulfidation system there, and we will find it. So we're just moving the social and the drill permitting forward there. But the best place to find these copper high sulfur, or sorry, these gold. The best place to find these gold high sulfidation deposits are next to existing mines, and Alto Ruri sits just south of Barrick's Purina mine, where they mined 10 million ounces of gold over the last 20 years, and that's currently in mine closure and reclamation. So it's quite an exciting project that is still at the early stages of exploration, but the initial discovery holes and the mineralization was found over 20 years ago. So we are advancing things as we speak.
Community relations can make or break, obviously, a mining project. What's something the industry, I suppose, still gets wrong about engaging with local communities, and why is Forte doing things differently?
It's a big part of our exploration business is the social and community engagement. And we spend a lot of time reanalyzing the strategy and the approach and what works. And, it's region specific. Sometimes it's very community specific. But I think the most important thing that we've learned and that we've done is we brought the social aspect in-house. So we have our own social team instead of hiring out third-party consulting groups that are great, but we felt we needed that consistent in-house expertise that we could manage it on different levels, and that's been very beneficial to Forte to have done that. We started that 3 years ago, and we'll have a team dedicated to each project with a higher level Lima management that oversees all that. But what we have learned too is that you have to be present. You have to have that consistent engagement, be present, and build the trust within the communities. A once a month or once a quarter visit is not that impactful. What's impactful is having people live there in the community, be present, and building the trust and that full-time engagement. So it's a lot to handle for small exploration companies, but it's vitally important. And so the success, short-term success, can be measured with that type of strategy that we've deployed. So that's all changed in the last 3 to 4 years. 15 years ago, it was a completely different type of engagement. There was still community engagement and whatnot, but it's a big part of the business. And if you're going to be there for the long term and you believe in these projects and the communities are they're essentially part of the whole focus and the team. It's not indifferent to working in Canada or these other jurisdictions, but we have people living in the communities, which is unique for some companies.
Many junior mining executives focus on, obviously, the geology and finance, but leadership in this space requires adaptability. What's been your biggest lesson as the CEO of Forte Minerals?
Well, I think in a whole, it's managing risk, right? And so, um, we often as geologists get excited about all these different opportunities. And what I've learned is when you're managing people's money and you have a good shareholder base that believes in you, you got to assess the risk on all levels. And the geological risk is substantial, but so is the social and political. So, as a leader and amongst our management teams, our board, we spend a lot of time assessing the risk, and it's a reassessment quarterly, and trying to de-risk these different compartments for our shareholders and for our investors. And so we've even if a geological discovery has been made, the project could be inhibited by other issues that weren't didn't have the same focus or backing and financial support in the early stages. So I think it's moving all these compartments forward, whether it's political risk, social risk, community risk, geological risk, and then even looking down the road as far ahead as infrastructure and logistical and downstream risk as well. We've seen a lot of projects plagued from remoteness or altitude or access to water and infrastructure logistics down the road that might be, phenomenal geologically in the early stages. I mentioned Zafranal. Zafranal is a pretty special project in Peru, as we were involved, our team with the early discovery of it, but then also moving it forward. And what's exciting about that is now it's come full circle, and Zafranal has been slated for development construction by Teck Resources. It's one of their 5 projects that they're going to put into production in the coming years. And so we've seen that come from the discovery to the first 100 holes that we were involved in, and now through the whole permitting process. So there's some tough years in exploration, but also in the metal prices. So a lot of these projects didn't get moved forward at the pace that they could have. But to see a project like that we were involved in come first circle, it will be a mine, and it'll be a successful mine, especially at these prices, and it'll have a long mine life. So there's a lot that was learned from that, but also if you take care of these early stage risk and you have the focus throughout all these stages of exploration, PEA, feasibility, and then subsequently mine development, it makes it easier in the long run.
And lastly, what's the outlook, the next sort of 6 to 12 months outlook for Forte Minerals?
Well, drilling. So we're finally drilling our high sulfidation Pucarini project. It's a gold project up in the Puno region, and then we'll segue into testing our porphyry copper called Esperanza for the very first time. But essentially, we discussed the private generative stuff through starting in 2008 with this team in Peru, and then the accumulation of properties, advancing them as much as we can, and then through the drill permitting process. But this will be the first time as a public company and as a team in the last decade that with Forte that we've gone in and drill tested our own targets. So the drill permitting process, it can take some time, but it's very comprehensive. You're doing a lot of environmental studies. It saves you time down the road for further exploration. So all of our drill permits came through at the same time. We've got 3 drill permitted projects right now, and we'll test we have 3 drill permitted projects right now. We're going to test Pucarini in the next 3 months here for the first time. I mean, this is a gold project that should have been drilled 10 years ago, and fortunately it wasn't. And we get the opportunity to drill test it first. Then we're gonna move into Esperanza, which is this is a porphyry copper that's exposed on surface in the Paleocene belt of southern Peru. I mean, this is one of the biggest copper belts in the world. It hosts some of the world's largest copper mines like Cerro Verde and Tocopala, Cojone, Quellaveco, and Zafranal. So it's exciting to be able, a company of our size, to be able to go in and drill test a porphyry of this magnitude. That's this is a large company copper target that has never been drilled.
Patrick, thank you for your time and telling us about Forte Minerals, and especially speaking about mining in Peru and Chile, and obviously giving us your insight to obviously the geology in those jurisdictions, and obviously a lot more. If our audience wants to reach out to you, if they want to follow the story, how can they go about doing that, and what social media platform channels are you and Forte Minerals on?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Rob. Thanks for having us on and sharing the story and the insights into Peru and Chile and the copper gold sector that we're so heavily involved in. Forte, www.forteminerals.com is our website. It's one of the best, and LinkedIn is and Instagram and X. So, we're on all the platforms there, but you see a lot of the coverage and on our properties on LinkedIn and the website.
Yeah, and we'll include those in the show notes of companies for easy access. So wish you well for 2025 and all the drill results that you hope to achieve. And maybe you want to come on later this year or beginning part next year and give us an update on what's happened, and obviously those results as well, and maybe some more insights to both jurisdictions.
Fantastic. Thanks, Rob. Really appreciate that. And hey, you know what? I look forward to coming back on with some exciting news.
Yeah, great to hear. Thank you again. And hopefully we'll see you next year.
Cheers. Thanks, Rob.
No worries. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed that episode. As always, appreciate your continued support. Please keep sharing these episodes far and wide. As I always say, not necessarily just to people within our industry, but people outside of our industry. Maybe someone that may be interested in gold or copper, or maybe people that are interested within the South America region, or if not, outside of the South America region. And until next time, happy mining.
Thank you for listening. Remember to reach out to Rob via the show notes, and be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Until next time, happy mining, helping each other to improve the mining industry.